Marcela had promised herself she wouldn't call her ex that Christmas, but the silence of her apartment defeated her resolve. She paced back and forth, holding her phone as if it were a device capable of detonating her heart. The memory of their last Christmas together slipped into her thoughts, warm and painful all at once. With a tired breath, she decided she needed closure, even if it came too late. She typed the number she knew by heart, fingers trembling despite her certainty. The ringing began, slow and echoing, tightening her chest. And, before she could change her mind, someone answered. The voice on the other end wasn't Helena's. It was softer, warmer, and completely unfamiliar. "Hello," the woman said, her tone curious enough to make Marcela freeze mid-breath. Her heart stumbled, confused by the unexpected sound. She checked her screen, convinced she must have dialed wrong. But the number was correct. And yet, the voice wasn't the ex she had expected to hear. "Sorry, I think I called the wrong number," Marcela muttered, heat rising to her cheeks. The woman on the other end gave a small, gentle laugh, light enough to soften the air. "That's all right. Happens more often than you'd think," she replied, calm and in no rush to hang up. Something in that laugh held Marcela still for a moment. It was a sound that brightened the quiet around her. A sound that made her hesitate instead of ending the call. "What's your name?" the stranger asked before Marcela could retreat. Marcela didn't know why she answered, but the truth slipped out easily. "Marcela." A brief silence followed, then a smile she could practically hear. "Nice to meet you, Marcela. I'm Marina." The name echoed in her mind like a soft musical note, the kind that leaves a lingering warmth just by being spoken. And in that moment, Marcela realized she was no longer eager to hang up. They started talking about simple things, the weather, the holiday, the strange heaviness December brings to broken hearts. Marina spoke in a calm, steady way, as if she smiled even when no one could see her. And Marcela, without meaning to, began to open up. She spoke of longing, of trying to move on, of feeling lost during that time of year. Marina listened with a care that felt unexpectedly comforting. No rush, no judgment, just presence. A fragile connection began forming, thread by thread. Before they realized it, 20 minutes had passed. What began as an impulsive call had turned into something quietly intimate. Marcela felt a strange warmth spreading in her chest, unfamiliar and gentle. Something new, something that didn't belong to sorrow. Marina seemed to understand her, without needing explanations. And for the first time in months, Marcela laughed genuinely. Softly, naturally, without forcing anything. "Can I be honest?" Marina asked, her voice suddenly a little shy. Marcela held her phone tighter, surprised by the shift in tone. "Of course. I like your voice and the way you speak." The words reached her like warm breath on a cold night. Marcela's stomach fluttered in a way she wasn't prepared for. Not discomfort, something far more dangerous. When they finally hung up, Marcela stared at the screen for a long moment. She hadn't spoken to her ex, nor found the closure she believed she needed. Instead, she had stumbled into something entirely different. Something she couldn't define, but which glowed faintly within her. A strange urge to hear that voice again. A pull toward a path she hadn't expected. And it had all begun with a simple Christmas mistake. The next morning, Marcela woke far earlier than usual, the winter light still dim outside her window. She reached for her phone before she even realized what she was doing. She wasn't expecting a message, but part of her hoped for one anyway. When the screen lit up empty, she let out a sigh she pretended not to notice. Why was she suddenly wishing for a stranger's voice? She barely knew Marina. And yet, something about her lingered. Marcela spent the day trying to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting back to the night before. She replayed Marina's laugh, the softness in her tone, the way she listened. It was absurd how vividly she remembered someone she had never met. She told herself it was just the holiday loneliness acting up. Still, each time her phone buzzed with a notification, her heart leapt. But none were from Marina. By afternoon, she was embarrassed by her own anticipation. That evening, As snow began drifting past her window, her phone rang. She assumed it was a spam call and almost ignored it until she recognized the number. Her breath caught as she answered. Marcela. Marina's voice came through, warm and lightly hesitant. A wave of relief washed over her, stronger than she expected. I hope it's not a bad time, Marina added. It's not, Marcela said quickly, too quickly. They talked again, this time about childhood Christmas memories. Marina shared stories full of chaos and laughter, painting vivid images of crowded kitchens and loud relatives. Marcela found herself smiling the entire time, imagining each detail as if she'd witnessed it. When it was her turn, she spoke of her quieter holidays, books, scented candles, a small family. Marina listened with genuine interest, responding with soft hums and warm questions. The conversations stretched effortlessly, as if they were picking up a dialogue they'd started years ago. At one point, Marcela confessed, I didn't expect to hear from you again. Marina paused, then let out a breathy laugh. I didn't expect a call, she admitted, but I felt drawn to. Does that sound strange? Marcela swallowed, feeling her pulse quicken. No. It doesn't. And it didn't because she felt the same magnetic pull. They ended up sharing things people usually keep guarded. Fears about the future, regrets that tugged at their ribs, dreams whispered in low tones. Marcela spoke with a vulnerability that surprised even herself. Marina matched it with her own honesty, careful but sincere. There was a softness between them, fragile, new, but undeniably real. Each confession seemed to stitch them closer together. Neither wanted the call to end. Maybe we can talk again tomorrow? Marina asked, hope woven delicately in her voice. Marcela's chest tightened with a feeling she'd nearly forgotten, anticipation. I'd like that, she said, trying to sound casual but failing. Marina's laugh revealed she heard the eagerness anyway. They exchanged gentle goodbyes, lingering a little too long. After the call ended, Marcela held the phone against her chest. Her world felt suddenly different, brighter, lighter. As she prepared for bed, Marcela realized the truth settling beneath her ribs. This connection wasn't simple loneliness anymore. It wasn't about her ex. It wasn't even about the mistake that started it all. It was about the way Marina made her feel seen without ever seeing her, like someone had finally stepped into the quiet spaces of her heart. And she wasn't ready to let that go. The next days unfolded in a rhythm neither of them planned, but both eagerly embraced. Every evening, Marcela found herself waiting for Marina's call, or gathering courage to make her own. Their conversations stretched longer each night, weaving comfort into the quiet corners of winter. Marcela began recognizing the small shifts in Marina's voice, the smile, the hesitation, the warmth. She felt herself drawn deeper, as if stepping into a place she had always longed for. She didn't question it. She simply let herself fall into the sound of her voice. One night, Marina admitted she had started carrying her phone around the house, just in case. Marcela laughed, cheeks warming at the admission. It felt strangely intimate, knowing she was becoming part of someone's routine. The feeling stirred a flutter in her chest, gentle but insistent. They spoke about their days, each detail suddenly meaningful. Even the mundane became fascinating when shared with someone who listened so fully. Marcela hadn't felt this connected to anyone in years. Still, beneath the sweetness of it all, Marcela felt a small tension humming under her ribs. She hadn't mentioned her ex again, and Marina hadn't asked. But the shadow of that initial intention lingered, unspoken. Part of her feared the truth might shift everything between them. Another part feared something even more unsettling, that she no longer cared about finding closure, only about hearing Marina again tomorrow. One evening, a storm rolled through the city, wind rattling the windows as snow piled against the glass. Marina called anyway, her voice threading warmth through the cold air. The storm became the backdrop to their longest conversation yet. They talked about favorite books, little secrets, hidden scars. Marcela felt as though she was walking through Marina's memories, gently touching each one. She shared her own stories in return, ones she rarely voiced aloud. and Marina held them with quiet, steady affection. "Do you ever feel like you know someone before you really do?" Marina asked softly. Marcela's breath caught at the question, as if Marina had reached straight into her chest. "Yes," she whispered. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full, warm, meaningful. Marcela felt the connection shift, deepen, settle into something unmistakably tender. Something that frightened her in the most beautiful way. Something she couldn't imagine losing now. Eventually, the storm knocked out the power in Marcela's building. Her apartment went black, lit only by the faint glow of her phone. "I can stay on the line with you," Marina offered, voice low and reassuring. Marcela felt a warmth spread through her, chasing away the dark. They stayed like that, talking softly, as if whispering secrets in the night. The world around them faded until only their voices remained. It felt like belonging. At one point, Marina asked, "Can I tell you something without you thinking I'm strange?" Marcela smiled in the dark, even though Marina couldn't see. "You can tell me anything." "I feel like meeting you was meant to happen," Marina confessed. The words settled over Marcela like a blanket, gentle and warm. She closed her eyes, letting them sink deep into her. "I think so too," she whispered. By the time the power returned, their call had lasted nearly 3 hours. Neither wanted to hang up, but both lingered at the edge of goodbye. Marcela felt changed, as if something inside her had quietly shifted into place. The mistake that started everything no longer felt like an accident. It felt like the beginning of something she wasn't ready to name. Something that scared her, because she wanted it so much. And Marina, on the other end, seemed to want it too. As the days moved closer to Christmas, Marcela began feeling a quiet unease growing beneath the warmth. It wasn't because she doubted Marina. If anything, she trusted her more each night. The unease came from herself, from the truth she still hadn't confessed. The truth that their entire connection had begun with a call meant for someone else. She feared Marina might pull away if she knew. She feared losing what had become the brightest part of her winter. But silence began weighing on her. Marina, meanwhile, seemed blissfully unaware of Marcela's internal turmoil. Her voice grew softer each night, her laughter more comfortable, her questions more intimate. She spoke as if Marcela had slipped into her life like a missing piece. And every time she said Marcela's name, something in Marcela melted. She wanted to deserve that tenderness. She wanted to be honest, but not if honesty meant breaking this fragile magic. Not if it meant losing Marina's voice. One night, Marina asked, "Would you ever want to meet someday?" Marcela froze, heart thudding loud enough to drown the world. It was a question she had secretly hoped for, yet feared in equal measure. Meeting would make everything real, every emotion, every possibility, every risk. But meeting would also force the truth to come out. She hesitated long enough for Marina to notice. "You don't have to answer now," Marina added gently. "It's not that," Marcela finally said, swallowing hard. She wanted to explain, to give Marina something honest without unraveling everything. "Meeting you scares me in a good way," she admitted. A soft breath of relief came from the other end. "It scares me too," Marina confessed. "But I don't want fear to stop us from something beautiful." The wordus wrapped around Marcela's chest like a warm ribbon. After that conversation, Marcela lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling in the dim glow of her bedroom. She replayed every word Marina had said, memorizing them like lines from a beloved book. The idea of meeting felt both thrilling and terrifying. What if Marina liked the person on the phone but not the person in real life? What if the connection faded the moment they stood face to face? And yet, another fear whispered louder. What if she never gave it a chance? The next evening, Marcela called first, something she rarely did. Her voice trembled slightly when Marina answered, breathless with surprise. "I'm glad you called," Marina said, sounding brighter than the Christmas lights flickering in Marcela's living room. They talked about their days, but Marcela sensed Marina waiting for something more. Something deeper. Something Marcela wasn't sure how to begin. The truth pressed against her tongue like a secret begging for escape. Finally, Marcela whispered, I haven't been completely honest with you. The line went quiet, soft, attentive, not panicked. Marina didn't interrupt. She simply breathed, a steady presence in the silence. Marcela's heart pounded as she continued. The night I called, I wasn't trying to reach someone new. Another quiet pause. I was calling my ex, she admitted, voice cracking at the edges. And you weren't supposed to be the one who answered. For a moment, Marcela feared she'd broken everything. The silence felt heavier, colder, sharper than before. But then Marina spoke, calm, not angry, not wounded. And yet you kept calling me, she said softly. Marcela closed her eyes, tears threatening. Yes, because I wanted you. Marina exhaled, a slow, emotional sound. Then the mistake wasn't a mistake, Marcela. After that night, something tender and unspoken shifted between them. Their conversations grew slower, deeper, like each word carried more meaning than before. Even their silences felt warm, filled with the quiet certainty that neither wanted to leave. Marcela felt lighter, as though confessing had unlocked a door she didn't know she'd been holding shut. Marina didn't treat her differently. If anything, she sounded even closer. As Christmas Eve approached, the tension between them became soft and electric. They were moving toward something inevitable. On the morning of Christmas Eve, Marina called earlier than usual. Her voice was bright, a little nervous, as if she had rehearsed something beforehand. Marcela, I don't want to spend tonight alone, she admitted. Marcela's heart fluttered so strongly she had to sit down. Neither do I, she whispered, feeling her breath catch. A pause stretched between them, hopeful, trembling, alive. Then Marina asked the question Marcela had been too afraid to voice. Would you, like to meet today? The words fell softly, but their impact echoed through Marcela's entire body. Fear and excitement collided inside her, stealing her breath. She looked around her apartment. Quiet, decorated, waiting. This Christmas didn't have to be like the last. She didn't have to keep loving people only from a distance. Yes, she finally said, her voice warm and sure. I want to meet you. They chose a small cafe downtown, one decorated with golden lights and evergreen garlands. Marcela arrived 10 minutes early, her heart racing loud enough to drown the holiday music. She kept fidgeting with her gloves, wondering if Marina would recognize her instantly. Wondering if she would recognize Marina. Every time the bell above the door chimed, her soul jumped a little. This was happening, after all the nights, all the whispered confessions. Tonight would change everything. Then the door opened again, and a woman stepped inside, brushing snow from her hair. Marcela knew immediately. There was something unmistakable about the gentleness in her posture, the softness in her eyes scanning the room. It was Marina. She was certain before Marina even spotted her. When their eyes met, both women stopped, breath catching in unison. Marina's expression softened into a smile, so warm it melted every ounce of Marcela's fear. It felt like recognition, like fate, like coming home. Marina approached with slow, careful steps, her smile trembling with emotion. Hi, she said, just one word, but her voice carried every late-night conversation between them. Marcela stood, unable to stop smiling. Hi. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, taking in every detail. The distance between their voices had never felt this small. Can I hug you? Marina asked softly. Marcela stepped forward before she even answered. The hug was warm, steady, completely real, nothing like Marcela had feared. It felt like two stories finally overlapping, like two hearts recognizing a familiar rhythm. They held each other longer than strangers should, but they weren't strangers anymore. When they finally sat, both were flushed and shy, yet impossibly happy. This feels strange, Marina said with a breathless laugh. But the good kind of strange. The best kind, Marcela agreed. They talked as if no time had passed, conversation flowing naturally even face to face. Marcela watched the way Marina's eyes brightened when she smiled. Marina watched the way Marcela relaxed when she laughed. Everything matched the voice they'd come to adore. They ordered hot chocolate, their hands brushing accidentally, sending a jolt through both. Outside, snow fell softly, blanketing the city in quiet white. Inside, something new and delicate began to bloom. After leaving the cafe, neither wanted the night to end. Marina suggested a walk through the Christmas market nearby, glowing with warm lights. Marcela agreed instantly, her heart already pulling toward Marina like gravity. They walked slowly, shoulders brushing, breaths visible in the cold air. Every moment felt fragile and precious, like a memory forming in real time. Marina kept glancing at Marcela with a soft smile she couldn't hide. Marcela felt her chest lift each time their eyes met. They stopped at a booth selling handmade ornaments, each one unique and shimmering. Marina picked one shaped like a little silver phone and laughed. "I think this one belongs to us," she said, holding it up between them. Marcela felt her cheeks warm despite the winter chill. "It does," she whispered, touched by the sweetness of it. Marina bought it without hesitation and handed it to her. A reminder that mistakes can be miracles. As they continued walking, snowflakes drifted gently onto their hair and coats. They found a small bench under a string of golden lights and sat, shoulders pressed together. Marcela could feel her heart beating fast, too fast, but she didn't pull away. Marina turned to her, eyes full of something tender and brave. "I'm really glad you called that night," she said softly. Marcela swallowed, her voice barely steady. "I'm glad you answered." The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was thick with possibility. Marcela felt Marina's hand slowly slide closer to hers on the bench. When their fingers finally intertwined, it was like the world exhaled. A perfect, quiet moment of acceptance and recognition. Marina leaned her head gently against Marcela's shoulder. Marcela closed her eyes, breathing in the warmth of her presence. She felt safe, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Eventually, Marina lifted her head, her eyes shimmering like they held a secret. "Can I tell you something?" she whispered. Marcela nodded, nerves fluttering softly inside her. "You've become the best part of my days," Marina said, voice trembling just slightly. The words hit Marcela with a sweetness that almost hurt. "Marina," she breathed, overwhelmed. "You're becoming the best part of mine, too." There was no rush, no dramatic motion, just a quiet pull between them. Marina leaned in first, slow and gentle, giving Marcela every chance to move away. Marcela didn't. Their lips met softly, a tender brush that felt like a promise. The kiss deepened just enough to say everything words couldn't. Warmth flooded Marcela's chest, melting the last echoes of loneliness. It felt like the beginning of something real. They pulled back with shy smiles, foreheads touching lightly. Around them, the market continued buzzing with holiday cheer, but they were in their own world. Marcela felt the weight of every choice that had led her here, every tear, every regret. And suddenly, none of it felt wasted. All of it had guided her to this moment, to this woman. Marina squeezed her hand gently, grounding her in the present. "Let's make this our first Christmas," she whispered. As they walked back toward the cafe lights, fingers still intertwined, Marcela felt something shift inside her. Not fear, not doubt, something steadier, brighter. She had met Marina through a mistake, a lonely impulse on a cold December night. But that mistake had rewritten everything she thought she knew about love. Marina looked over with a smile that reached her eyes, full of quiet certainty. And Marcela knew, without question, that this was only the beginning. A Christmas-style mistake that had led her home.